This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Unbelievable. Emily, get Lagerfeld on the phone. I want the updated images on my desk by 6 p.m. sharp. How difficult is it? Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to Mike's Mike. My name is Factually, Contractually, and Editorially Mike. Is that what you're wearing to watch this video? That's all. Today we're doing something special. We're going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite movies, The Devil Wears Prada. Now this movie, it's a movie, yeah. But it's so much more than that. It's a lifestyle. It's a personality. It's the blueprint for slaying, some have said. I didn't say it. I'm simply the messenger for such messages. Now, I am, in fact, wearing Prada loafers right now. Yeah, I know. And I look a little bit cute right now as well. What's that about? Also, before you run to the comments to yell at me, where's Glee Part? It's coming. Trust me. I'm working on it, but I'm also booked and busy, and these things take time, etc., etc. While going through this movie, I will be referring to some scenes as bulletproof hospitality, which means that they are CIA level 3 clearance serves. At User Anne Hathaway, do you work in hospitality? Because you are serving. The opening scene of Devil Wears Prada is one such example. We have a montage of our main character, Andrea Sachs, or Andy, for those who are friends with her, and we are such examples of friends. And she's getting ready for her day. She's brushing her teeth, she's doing her makeup, and in the background we have KT Tunstall, Suddenly I See playing. Suddenly I see. And in between scenes of Andy getting ready, we have scenes of fashion it girls getting ready for their days, and the slay is astronomical, like severe Bella Hadid vibes. Some people would be scared. Andy's checking her diary, and it looks like she's got a job interview, and we can see from her little folder of excerpts that she's a journalist. The fashion girls are measuring out oats and almonds. Andy opts for a New York bagel. I can think of one person in particular who may or may not be on your screen right now, who may or may not be in New York having a New York bagel at the end of July. Now we're starting to get vibes that perhaps Andy is a long-term resident of Struggletown, because the art pop re-release Track 9 Donatella girls, they're flagging down taxis. Meanwhile, Andy's booking it down to the subway. She's a native New Yorker, just like me. Just like me. Andy arrives at her destination and she's walking into this huge, absolutely huge glass building, and all the fashion it girlies are walking in there as well in their high heels, but not Andy. She's wearing a boot. She's Boot Girl. The destination, Runway magazine, which is a very obvious reference to Vogue magazine. Speaking of Vogue magazine, I am in fact still available. I've said before and I'll say it again, and yet it's absolute crickets in the inbox. Andy meets our next iconic character, Emily Charlton. Now, Emily, she is an absolute bitch, and I'm obsessed. Emily says that she used to be second assistant to Miranda Priestley, but now she's first assistant, so they're hiring a second assistant to replace her, and she also says that Miranda keeps firing the new hires. Andy says, "Who's Miranda?" It's a PR disaster for Andy. A key plot point here to remember for later is that Emily says you work a year for her, referring to Miranda, and you can get a job at any magazine you want, which is what Andy plans to do. Time for another example of bulletproof hospitality. Emily gets a text that, dun dun dun, Miranda has arrived at Runway. The girls are scurrying. Absolute rodent behavior happening in the Runway headquarters. Everyone is cleaning up. Everyone is cleaning down and sideways. She's on her way. Tell everyone. Stanley Tucci's saying, "All right, everyone, gird your loins." Miranda steps out of her car via red suede Prada pump. Like, this is not a joke. This is serious. Did somebody say Prada pump? It's not a Prada pump. Oh my god, ow. She's also got a Prada bag, and she's holding a draft copy of Runway. There's a fashion it girl in the elevator, and Miranda gets in, and the girlie gets out and says, "Sorry, Miranda." What's she sorry about? Is she sorry about breathing the same air as Miranda? Is she perhaps sorry for using the internet without a VPN? This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark is a virtual private network available as an app and a browser extension that lets you access content from all around the world and also protects you when browsing online. With features like Clean Web, Surfshark makes your browsing experience safer by blocking ads, malware, and phishing attempts while adding another layer of protection over what you're doing online. Are you wearing the Surfshark VPN? Yeah. I am. With over 3,000 servers worldwide, it's easy to change your location and access more content. For example, if you wanted to watch The Devil Wears Prada on Disney Plus and it's not available on Disney Plus in your country, you can use the Surfshark extension to change your location to, say, Australia, which I know has it, and then you can watch Devil Wears Prada. You can use my code MIKESMIC, that's MIKESMIC, to get 83% off plus 3 extra months for free, and Surfshark is also giving away their antivirus for free this month. There's also a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can give it a try risk-free. So make sure you head to that link in the description to check out that deal, and be sure to use my code MIKESMIC. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. RSVP yes to the Michael Kors party. I want the driver to drop me off at 9:30 and pick me up at 9:45 sharp. I can pretty much quote this entire movie, and I will. That's the thing. So Miranda interviews Andy and it goes diabolically. Andy's giving off vibes like, I'm too real to be working in a place like this. And Miranda's giving off vibes like, I'm way too important to be talking to you right now. And then Miranda absolutely reads Andy to fucking filth. And you have no sense of style or fashion. Well, I think that depends on what you're... No, that wasn't a question. If someone said that to me, it would be over. The eyes when she says that. Miranda then interrupts and dismisses Andy with her catchphrase, that's all. The calm and quiet, that's all. That's like Exodia vibes. How do you counter that? Andy talks back to Miranda and then Nigel comes in to talk about Gwyneth's cover. Can we get a little commotion for the newspaper closing action?
Oh my God, yes!
Nigel sees Andy leave and he says, who is that sad little person? Are we doing a before and after piece I don't know about? Down in the lobby, Andy's leaving and then Emily calls her to tell her that she's got the job. Cut to Andy having dinner with her friends and my biggest enemy, her boyfriend, Nate. This man... I don't need to. You know what he's done and you know what he's gonna do. Wait, you got a job at a fashion magazine? What was it? A phone interview? Shut the fuck up. I won't not fuck you the fuck up. And then one of the friends, Doug, is like, oh my God, Miranda Priestley. And they're all like, boy no fashion lady? Only girl can know fashion lady. Andy's first day and she's already in the trenches. Emily tells her to get a no foam skimmed latte with an extra shot and 3 drip coffees with room for milk, searing hot. And I mean hot. We hear the absolutely iconic ringtone for the first time. Do-do-do-do-do. Sounds heard before disaster, Andy Sachs edition. At the office, Emily tells Andy 3 things. The first thing is that Andy is now Katy Perry chained to the desk and has to answer every single call. The second thing is that Emily gets to go with Miranda to Paris for Fashion Week in the fall. The Emily in Paris that was promised. And the third thing is the book. Capital T, capital B, the book. Now the book is a mock-up of the current issue that Miranda writes her notes in every night. Andy is running errands and she is capital S struggling. Miranda and Emily are giving her very brief instructions very quickly and she's barely keeping up. And she's kind of so real for that. She's very relatable in this moment. Now, Mr. Nigel, he's being a little bit of a bitch. He's insinuating that Andy shouldn't eat her corn chowder and bread roll because 2 became the new 4 and 0 became the new 2. And then when Andy spills the chowder on her jumper, he says, I'm sure you have plenty more polyblend where that came from. Nasty, nasty girl. Now, Andy says that she doesn't really see the point in changing everything about herself for this one job, and I've coined this her IBS timeline, her integrity before slay. And then... drama strikes. Miranda pushes up the time of the run through and everyone is scrambling. Why is no one ready?
Why is no one ready?
That line delivery? See, Meryl Streep, you people don't get Meryl Streep like I get Meryl Streep. We see each other. Miranda's picking between 2 belts and the assistant says, they're so different. And Andy laughs. Oh, no. Like, girl, shut up. Miranda is about to read her to filth and thank God for that, and also I will be performing it verbatim for you right now. I did it before on my channel a couple of years ago, but back then I didn't own any Prada. So now it's different. Andy's talking shit like, both those belts look exactly the same to me. You know, I'm still learning about this stuff. This stuff? Oh, okay. I see. You think this has nothing to do with you. You go to your closet and you select, I don't know, that lumpy blue sweater, for instance, because you're trying to tell the world that you take yourself too seriously to care about what you put on your back. But what you don't know is that sweater is not just blue. It's not turquoise. It's not lapis. It's actually cerulean. And you're also blithely unaware of the fact that in 2002, Oscar de la Renta did a collection of cerulean gowns. And then I think it was Yves Saint Laurent, wasn't it, who showed cerulean military jackets? I think we need a jacket here. And then cerulean quickly showed up in the collections of 8 different designers. And then it filtered down through the department stores and trickled on down into some tragic casual corner we no doubt fished it out of some clearance bin. However, that blue represents millions of dollars and countless jobs. And it's sort of comical how you think that you've made a choice that exempts you from the fashion industry when in fact you're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff. End the scene. Guys, where's my Oscar? Where's my Oscar? Now that scene, yeah. That is bulletproof hospitality, the definition of. Now, Andy's absolutely shitting right? And she's shitty. She rants to her boyfriend and she says that she just needs to stick it out for a year and she won't let Miranda get to her. Now, one thing this movie does extremely well, it's a montage. There's a montage of Miranda walking through the office every day and like dumping her bag on Andy's desk, and it's just like the sound effects and the speed that they do it just makes Miranda seem like so Everyone around Andy's telling her that maybe this isn't such a great job. Her dad's saying that it doesn't pay well, she's working ridiculous hours, and she's not even writing anything, which is what she wanted to do. Miranda gets stuck in a storm in Miami and demands that Andy find her a flight out, but there's nothing flying out, so Andy can't do it, and then Miranda does this big speech about how disappointed she is, and she makes Andy cry. Andy and Nigel are kind of workplace friends at this point, and she goes to complain to him, and he tells her to quit. That is so me vibes, like you don't understand. If you're having severe issues at work, don't tell me about it, because I will tell you to quit if you're financially able to do so. Nigel gives this big speech about how Runway isn't just a fashion magazine, and it's like this shining beacon of hope for so many creatives, and he says that Miranda is just pissy because she's doing her job. Andy's like, damn, maybe you have a point. Maybe I'm whinging too much and I got a Zendaya shake it up and start really going for it. Now at the 35-minute mark in this movie, society collapses. When this movie came out in 2006 and there was some first screening somewhere, at the 35-minute mark, the Earth collapsed. Dropped a little bit on the Z-axis in space. This is the makeover scene, followed by the Chanel boots scene, followed by the montage to end all montages. Andy's like girl bossing around New York City in extremely slay outfits. I don't actually think I can talk about it, guys. It's too close for me. I can't talk about it. She was at her lowest, and she went into that wardrobe mad as hell. Now, post makeover, Miranda would never actually say that Andy looks good, but she gives her like a look, and that's the golden ticket. Now back to the friends and Andy's crusty ass boyfriend. Could he be crustier, do you reckon? I don't actually think he could be crustier. He's like a moldy piece of bread with a moldy piece of cheese on it put under the grill. But the tray in the grill is too high and the cheese melts and then burns, and the cheese fumes of the moldy cheese get stuck to the grill. So then any future thing that you put in that grill is going to smell like moldy cheese. That's his vibe. Andy gifts all of her friends something from the office, including a Marc Jacobs bag for Bestie Lily, and Nate sees it and he says, "Why do women need so many bags?" Just shut up. Andy's phone rings and they're all doing like hot potato with the phone when they realize that it's the dragon lady. And I'm like, you just got all of this free shit. Now you're being assholes to Andy, and then you're acting all pissy when she gets mad for taking her phone. Rule number 1, don't touch my phone. Rule number 2, wear SPF during the day. Andy leaves the bar and goes to a fancy ooh la la event to pick up sketches by James Holt for Miranda. She meets Eyebrows Man, Christian Thompson. Now the second Eyebrows Man arrives on screen, you just know that he's up to some shit. But anyway, he's like some hotshot writer that Andy is obsessed with, and then he says that he'll read some of her work, and she's basically screaming on the floor crying about that. The next day, Miranda is on X Games mode, and she pushes up the preview of James Holt's collection, and ooh, this is bad for the James Holtonators. 1 nod is good, 2 nods is very good. She doesn't like it, she shakes her head. And of course, there's the pursing of the lips. Catastrophe. She purses the lips. It's disastrous for James Holt. Remember the book, capital T, capital B, the book? Well, not just anyone can drop the book off at Miranda's house for her to write her notes in. You have to earn it. And apparently Andy has earned it. Emily gives Andy explicit instructions to not talk to or look at anyone. And what does Andy do? She talks to and looks at Miranda's twin daughters. It's an absolute PR disaster. She doesn't know what table to put the book on, and the twins tell her to just come upstairs. Emily does it all the time. So she does go up the stairs, and Miranda clocks her. That look? People died. 2 things about Miranda Priestley. She's going to wear Prada, and she's going to be the devil. She tasks Andy with getting the new Harry Potter book for the twins because they want to know what happens next. When she says the new Harry Potter book, she's referring to the unpublished manuscript, of course. Nepotism babies strike again. Like, I feel like that was one of my first on-screen interactions with nepotism babies, and I was like, the playing field is not even. Now this all feels very like ultimatum vibes. Miranda's being an asshole truly. Get the impossible manuscript or you're fired for climbing my stairs and seeing me talk to my husband. She also makes Andy get a specific steak in 15 minutes, and Andy is absolutely fighting for her life to get this done, and then Miranda comes in, sees the steak and says, "I don't want that." She's a felon. Wish me luck. No, shan't. Andy has had enough and she's decided to quit. Very hashtag relatable, very me November 2020 aesthetic. But literally, the second that she gets off the phone with her flop boyfriend after telling him that she's quitting, Eyebrows Man calls her and tells her that he's secured the unpublished Harry Potter manuscript for her, so now she's not quitting anymore. One copy. What are my twins going to do with that? Share? When Nate finds out that Andy didn't end up quitting, he gets all angsty, and she says, "I'm still the same person I was. Same Andy, better clothes." And he says, "I like the old clothes." Florals for spring, groundbreaking. Breaking news, Emily is sick. It's the night of the benefit, so Miranda wants Andy to come along to help Emily because Emily's sick. But it's also the night of Nate's birthday celebrations, so you just know that that is going to go great. Assisting Miranda at this event means whispering in her ear when someone's approaching so that Miranda can act like she knows who this person is. See, the thing is, I need that. I swear I have like an encyclopedic knowledge of random shit, but then when it comes to remembering actually important things like people's names, it is an absolute fight for survival up here. Andy's about to leave to go to Nate's event, and then Eyebrows turns up and he says that his contact for the New York magazine is inside the benefit and that he can introduce Andy to him. It's kind of like one of those butterfly effect decisions where Andy's choices are on a UI in front of her face, like go to Nate's event, stay at the benefit and talk to New York magazine guy. She chooses go to Nate's event. So she goes to meet Nate, and he's being a sulking toddler because she was so late that she ended up missing the event. The man is upset. I get it. I respect it. Yeah, Andy's gonna miss the birthday event, which is terrible, but like, inevitable. And let's not forget that she did actively turn down meeting Eyebrows Man's contact so that she could try and make it to the event. So, and then disaster strikes. I want these on my desk by Monday. They're already on my desk. Be quiet. Miranda says that Paris Fashion Week is the most important week of the year and she needs her best team with her, which no longer includes Emily. Basically, she wants Andy to replace Emily in Paris. Andy in Paris. No. This is disastrous because Emily's entire existence revolves around going to Paris for Fashion Week in the fall. She's been eating nothing except for a cube of cheese when she feels like she's about to faint for weeks. So Andy's like, I don't know if I can do that. And Miranda, the absolute fucking felon, she's like, if you don't do this, I will assume that you're not serious about your job at Runway or any other publication. Which means she's basically blackmailing Andy to boot Emily out of Paris. It's diabolical. Andy is screwed either way. If she says no, she'll screw herself over and it'll feel like everything that she's done so far was for nothing. And we know that Andy feels the sunk cost because the whole it would have all been for nothing is one of the reasons why she comes back after quitting for 10 seconds. But then if she says yes, she's going to absolutely ruin Emily's life. And yeah, we know that Emily hasn't been perfectly nice to Andy, but it's still a big blow. So Miranda's making Andy choose between being selfless and selfish, and Andy ultimately decides to go to Paris, and it's another one of those butterfly effect decisions. And this action will have consequences. Emily will remember this. So Anne, the Saxth away, has to tell Emily that she's not going to Paris. And she's on the phone to her, she's about to tell her, and then Emily gets hit by a car. So now Andy is telling her in hospital. It's like, it is disastrous. No, it is. Now Emily is pissed off, understandably. She talks about how the worst part is Andy said how much she doesn't care about fashion and how much she wants to be a serious journalist, and now all this bullshit has happened. Andy did a deal with the devil, who just happens to be wearing Prada. It's a coincidence. Correlation does not imply causation. STEM girlies, make some noise. See, the thing about me is I'm crafty. If I was Andy, I would not have told Emily that the reason why she couldn't go to Paris was because Miranda said so. Emily's laying in a hospital with casts on her legs because she got hit by a car. That's why she can't go. Because she can't walk. Like, I'm sorry, you've just got to use the situation. Why are you booing me? I'm right. Andy goes to Lily's photography event and she's talking to Doug, and we get that same bloody shit where he shows that he has some fashion knowledge. This time it's knowing some of the names of designers that will be showing at Paris Fashion Week, and Andy's like, okay, now you're scaring me. Why finance man, no fashion? So Andy's at this event looking at the photos, and then boom, Eyebrows turns up. He's level 10 flirting with Andy, talking about ooh la la Paris. Ooh la la, we're wet and wet and wet. Andy's like, stop. And Lily sees him kiss her on the cheek, and she starts decoding the nuclear launch codes to destroy Andy. The Andy I know is madly in love with Nate. Speaking of, he turns up, and Andy and Nate have a little argument. He's all like, I wouldn't care if you were out there pole dancing all night as long as you did it with a little integrity. And then as they're breaking up, the phone rings. Ooh, so symbolic. Bottoms up, And the devil laughs. In Paris, Miranda tells Andy to change the seating for a runway luncheon so that Snoop Dogg is now on her table because there's a blank space. Yes, Taylor Swift. There's a blank space because Miranda's husband is no longer coming because he has just divorced her. Yes, the devil wears divorce. And then we get an excellent example of bulletproof hospitality. And then when we get back to New York, we need to contact Leslie to see what she can do to minimize the press on all this. Miranda's just been crying about this divorce, right? This fresh divorce. This divorce picked fresh from the tree. But she's like, it's not going to ruin my dinner plans. Why would I not go out? She's a bit, like, she's a lot. This next bit, ooh. Miranda-nators were on Twitter fighting for their lives over this next bit. Boom, clap, the sound of a PR disaster. So Nigel and Andy are celebrating because James Holt's company is going global and Nigel is going to be James's business partner. And Nigel's been working 18 years to get to this. We'll leave that there and pick it back up in a second. Let's quickly jump over to Andy and Eyebrows having dinner. He's trying to get Andy to admit that she hates Miranda, and Andy says, yes, she's tough. But if Miranda were a man, no one would notice anything about her except how great she is at her job. And it's true. Stream the Man by Taylor Swift. La la la, Andy and Eyebrows hook up. He's seedy. The next morning, Andy wakes up in his apartment and she's running diabolically late. So she's running around the apartment and she sees on the floor a mock-up of American Runway. Dun, dun, dun. Eyebrows says that that is what American Runway is going to look like when the editor-in-chief of French Runway, Jacqueline Follet, replaces Miranda Priestley as the editor-in-chief of American Runway. Now that is spicy, babe. That is very spicy. Andy is running around Paris trying to find Miranda to tell her about this bullshit because apparently Miranda doesn't know that she's about to be replaced. And let me just get into my high school English analysis bag. It's a cute little juxtaposition from the start of the movie where Andy was running around New York City doing stuff for Miranda that she didn't want to do. She hated Miranda and she was just doing it because she had to. Whereas now she's running around Paris trying to help Miranda with something that she doesn't even know about. So she tells Miranda and Miranda doesn't care. Why? At the runway luncheon, Miranda announces that the person that's going to be James Holt's business partner is Jacqueline Follet and not our bestie extraordinaire Nigel. That's why she doesn't care about being replaced, because it's not happening at all. She found out what was happening and got Jacqueline in contact with James so that she would take the job and not be gunning for Miranda's job anymore. She also did a little bit of blackmailing and told Irv, the guy who's in charge of basically funding Runway, that if he replaces her, that she'll walk with all of her industry contacts, which would actually be diabolical for Runway. The worst part is Miranda didn't even tell Nigel that he wasn't going to get the role. So he was at this event expecting her to announce him, and then she announces Jacqueline Follet. At the end of the day, it was absolute snake behavior, and that was the news that sent Miranda-nators into a spiral. Nigel is upset understandably, but he says, when the time is right, she'll pay me back. Nor, are you sure about that? Miranda tells Andy that she sees a great deal of herself in her, and Andy's like, well, that's that. I'm out. I couldn't do what you did to Nigel, Miranda. I couldn't do something like that. You already did. To Emily. Devil vibes, babe. Devil vibes, scary vibes in the taxi right now. Miranda points out that Andy chose to get ahead by replacing Emily in Paris. Butterfly decision consequences, remember? Andy's all, what if I don't want to make those decisions? What if I don't want to live like this? And then we get an absolutely iconic Miranda scene. She says, don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everybody wants this. Everybody wants to be us. And then she gets out of the car and it's like all the paparazzi taking the photos. And it's like in slow-mo. Andy's in the taxi like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm sick and tired of playing games. I don't want to play any more games. All for beer, smoked salmon. Who's bothered about that? So Andy gets out of the car and runs off and she chucks the phone into the fountain. We have a cute little time jump and Andy meets up with Nate and she's saying, you were right this whole time. I'm so sorry. And I'm just sitting there like, I support women's wrongs. She did not have to apologize. Nate says he's moving to Boston and basically asks her to come with him, so it looks like they're getting back together. Andy has a job interview as a journalist for the New York Mirror, and the hiring guy says that he contacted Miranda for a reference, and Miranda faxed him to say that Andy's by far her biggest disappointment, and that if he doesn't hire her, he's an idiot. Miranda-nators' redemption arc. Andy pays forward the good vibes and calls Emily and says, oh, Emily, I've got a really big problem. Can you help me out, please? I have all these really gorgeous, beautiful clothes from Paris and I have absolutely nowhere to put them and I can't wear them. Could you maybe take them off my hands? sisters. The end of the movie is Andy seeing Miranda get into a car. Now, one thing about Miranda Priestley, she's going to get in and out of a car in slow motion. This blank stare plus reverse quarter turn drop combo honestly deserves an Olympic medal. Like, when will the other figure skaters? That is so me vibes when I leave the club. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I make a lot of references to me at the club, but the truth of the matter is I don't actually go out that much. And it's not because I don't want to, I just don't actually have that many friends. Anyway, Miranda sits in the taxi and smiles. It's just lovely, isn't it? And that's the end of The Devil Wears Prada. It's a classic. It's a classic. And I feel like it's literally required reading to talk to me. If you're talking to me and you have not seen The Devil Wears Prada, why are you talking to me? Thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave me a like. If you feel so inclined, you might even want to leave a comment. Or dare I say it, subscribe, I know. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. I gotta go because I need to go scream into a Google Doc about Glee.